This shot here was taken with the GoPro Hero 13 and this one with the Hero 12. Wait, no, the other way around. This is the shot of the Hero 12 and this is the shot of the Hero 13. Okay, admittedly a bad joke. What I actually wanted to say is that there is no difference. Here you can see two more shots in a direct comparison. Perhaps the only difference you can see is that the Hero 13 sometimes exposes slightly brighter. And here's another direct comparison shot. Can you see a relevant difference? It's no wonder that there is hardly any difference between the two shots. The Hero 13 almost certainly uses exactly the same sensor and exactly the same image processor as the Hero 12. But there are actually a few differences between these two cameras. A few differences in the hardware and a few differences in the software. Today, however, we will see that most of the new features will probably play a minor role for most users. In fact, GoPro has been selling the same camera in a slightly different package and with a revised software for a few years now. But it has to be said, some of the new features of the Hero 13 are important and useful and can make a difference for some people. So let's take a more structured look at the whole thing. Overall, the Hero 13 offers 13 relevant new features compared to the Hero 12. Let's go through them one by one and try to understand whether these new features are really useful and significant. Before that, I just want to make it very clear once again that there is almost no difference at all between the recordings of the two cameras in the standard settings. So if you don't see any particular benefit in the following new features, upgrading to the Hero 13 doesn't seem to make much sense. Let's start with perhaps the most advertised new feature, a feature from which buyers of the standard version of the Hero 13 do not actually benefit at all. The Hero 13 has a slightly modified lens mount, for which a range of new lenses are now available. In addition to an ultra-wide lens, which basically corresponds to the Max Lens Mod 2 available for the Hero 12, there is now also a macro lens mod, attachments with ND filters, and at a later date there will also be an anamorphic lens for particularly cinematic shots. Fortunately, the Max Lens Mod 2 is compatible with the Hero 13. The only difference between the Max Lens Mod 2 and the new ultra-wide lens is that only the new lenses are automatically recognized by the camera. And now I'll ask you a question. Do you think you'll be taking macro shots with an action camera very often? I'm not saying that the macro lens is useless. You can certainly take very cool shots with it, but it's only useful for a very limited purpose. And for that, the price of $130 seems a bit excessive. Apart from the new lens mount, the body of the GoPro has been slightly redesigned. It now has a ribbed surface under the lens, which should dissipate the heat a little better. This means that the Hero 13 should perform better when it comes to overheating. For example, here in the office at around 20 degrees Celsius, it shoots for around 44 minutes. The Hero 12 switches off after 40 minutes due to overheating. That's an improvement of only 10%, so not an outstanding improvement. And whether the overheating performance is really relevant for you depends on your specific use. When using the GoPro as an action camera, there will often be airflow, for example when mountain biking, running, motorcycling and so on. In all these cases, you will hardly have any problems with overheating with an action camera. However, if you want to use the camera for long shots on the beach as a travel camera, or for example in the heat when fishing, the overheating performance can be important. Due to my specific use, I personally had no problems with overheating with the Hero 12. The battery is also new. It should enable a longer runtime. And that is the case. The Hero 13 can shoot in 4K 30 for 1 hour and 46 minutes until the battery is empty. The battery of the Hero 12 runs out after around 1 hour and 38 minutes in this setting. The new battery therefore offers a slight advantage. But the difference is not as great as you might have expected. But the new battery charges significantly faster than the Hero 12 battery. According to GoPro, about 2 times as fast. Unfortunately, the new battery of the Hero 13 also has a disadvantage. The Hero 13 is no longer compatible with older GoPro batteries. So if you upgrade, you can no longer use your old batteries for the Hero 13. I would also like to mention another advantage of the Hero 13, as this could actually be really relevant for me. The Hero 13's new battery is supposed to be significantly more cold resistant than the Hero 12's battery, and as you may know, I use action cameras a lot for skiing. I've tested it in the fridge. After an hour in the freezer, both cameras were still working, so I can't say whether there is a relevant difference. I can't benefit from the next innovation myself at the moment. The Hero 13 features a new magnetic mount that can be attached and removed quickly, has the two classic GoPro mounting fingers, and even a tripod mount in the center. Actually a super cool mount. Unfortunately, I had overlooked the fact that this is not a built-in standard mount of the Hero 13, but an accessory that has to be purchased separately. And in fact, such an accessory has long been available from third-party suppliers for older GoPro models. Personally, I find it a little annoying that the new mount is not included in the standard packaging. And there is also a new side door that has a magnetic charging connector on the outside. This allows you to charge the Hero 13 from the outside, and it remains waterproof during the charging process. An interesting solution for very long time lapses, for example. But you guessed it, this is also an accessory that has to be purchased for an additional $80. The back display of the Hero 13 looks very similar to that of the Hero 12 to me, and I don't think it's any brighter than that of the Hero 12, but I have the impression that it's slightly more responsive and works better. I also have the impression that the front display has been slightly improved, that it's a bit brighter and the colors look a bit better now. And that's basically it for the hardware improvements. Although I have to say that the Hero 13, at least on the outside, looks much cooler than the Hero 12. So let's take a look at the new software features. And actually the new software now allows for minor differences in image quality. This is because low light shots are now more heavily denoised. Here you can see a comparison shot with the Hero 12 in low light. You can set on the camera how strongly the denoising function should be applied. In the default settings, it's set to high. But you shouldn't forget that strong noise removal also leads to a reduction in detail. I have the impression that the biggest difference when shooting in low light is that the Hero 13 exposes a little darker and uses a faster shutter speed, which significantly improves the stabilization. And there is also a new Slo-Mo mode, Slo-Mo Burst. It makes it possible to capture very short clips in extreme slow motion. There is the option of 5.3K with 120 frames per second for a shot of up to 5 seconds. The Hero 12 could only shoot 120 frames per second in 4K. The difference between 5.3K and 4K is visible, but not huge. Another new option is 360 frames per second, but only at a resolution of 900p. In other words, less than Full HD. It has a significantly reduced image quality. This new feature therefore seems more like a gimmick to me. For some, the most important new feature will actually be that the Hero 13 now supports GPS again. GPS was probably removed from the Hero 12 to improve battery life and the overheating performance. If you need the GPS data, this is an important and useful new feature. Just like the competition, the Hero 13 now also supports the DJI Mic 2, which you can now connect via Bluetooth as an external microphone. It's clear that this feature could easily have been added via update. The GoPro Hero 13 should also enable faster wireless transmission using Wi-Fi 6. And then there are a few features that were shown by some YouTubers, but which are not actually available, at least not at the moment. For example, it was announced that there would be a motion blur feature that would add artificial motion blur to the recording in camera and not just in post in the app. This feature is not included in the current firmware. We were also told that the log profile had been revised. It's now supposed to be flatter and contain less contrast. But this is not the case either. Log recordings look exactly the same as on the Hero 12. And it was said that the Hero 13 would have an HLG HDR profile, which would suggest that the corresponding recordings could now show significantly brighter highlights, which would be a great advantage when viewed on an HDR-capable screen, such as the iPhone screen. But this is also not the case. The HDR recordings look exactly the same as on the Hero 12. Perhaps some of these features will come with a later update. And this is very interesting, GoPro claims that the Hero 13 should now work much more reliably and crash less than older models. Does this mean that GoPro is now openly admitting after so many years that GoPro cameras have not worked reliably up to now? Okay, you can tell I'm very critical in this video. I simply think that GoPro is wasting the potential of a very famous and cool brand. Also, the Hero 13 is not a bad camera. The colors and the shots look really good. But in fact, the Hero 13 is largely the same camera as the Hero 11, which is 2 years older. Yes, you've seen that there are a few new features, but all the new software features could easily have been added via updates. And the new hardware features for GoPro are more about selling expensive accessories. They've probably seen with the Max Lens mod over the last few years that this seems to work well. So what do you think? Am I wrong? Let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe I'll change my mind. There's already an interesting comparison between the Hero 13 and the X4 on my channel. Check it out if you're interested in action cameras in general. There will of course be more videos about the Hero 13. So stay tuned and see you next time.